The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff and management of WWDB-TV.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Doing It with Stiles. I thank you for coming back every week and seeing what we have to offer here at WWDB TV. Today I've got a guest and a subject that I think is probably near and dear to more of us than we realize. We all have friends or relatives or know people who have some type of autism. And today my guest is Hal Bray, who is you are the CEO?
I'm the executive director.
You are the executive director of Heroes for Autism.
Yes, sir.
Hal, thank you for sharing, coming on today and helping us with this.
Thanks for having us.
Tell me a little bit about Heroes for Autism. What is this about?
Well, Heroes for Autism it came from an idea that my wife and I had. We have a 7-year-old son. He has autism. He was diagnosed when he was 3. We realized, we had him kind of late in life. And, we realized that there's a good opportunity that he might actually be alone on this earth for, 20, 30 years. And he wouldn't really understand why we left or that we had a choice. Extremely emotional. I still get choked up thinking about it. That literally took us a month to really get over and then pick ourselves up off the floor and start to say, what are we going to do for our child?
So you've had 4 years now to come to the realization and experience what your life is going to be like and what his life might be like afterwards.
Right, and a learning process every day, and that's been part of the gift of Heroes for Autism is, not what we're doing for the community, which I hope is received well and has been so far, but really how we've been affected by meeting all of the different people on all different ranges of the spectrum. I mean, it's really amazing to see all the people out there that have gone undiagnosed into their 30s. I just met a gentleman the other day that got diagnosed at 35, and you think, what an amazing set of coping skills that he must have had to adapt in order to, be perceived as normal, or as he said, they just thought I was weird, which is quite a common thing that we hear. So now with a diagnosis, he's able to actually get some of the programs that are out there to help him. And of course, being that he had to navigate this road alone for 35 years, he's a voice that really a resounding voice in the community, and everyone like him.
That's amazing. You mentioned the word spectrum, and I've heard this before in relationship to autism, and that is that there are no two autistic cases that are the same.
Yeah, that's one of Sergeant Sutton's favorite sayings.
Various, it's so how would, if I met someone, how would I know if they were autistic and can you explain the scale to us? So the spectrum, or what does that even mean?
The spectrum is a spectrum, and it's very complex, but I can tell you that, kind of that point A to point B with Asperger's being considered the highest functioning on the autism spectrum disorder.
See, and I wasn't aware of that. I wasn't aware that Asperger's was a form of autism.
Asperger's is actually a form of autism. It's a very high functioning. Oftentimes, you might not notice right away that somebody with Asperger's has Asperger's. There's different levels of Asperger's like there are everything else. But generally, folks with Asperger's are able to, grow up, have a job, drive a car, relationship, a significant other, children. Not that those things aren't possible being on the autism scale,
right?
But obviously the more severe diagnosis that you have is going to indicate the limitations that you have moving forward in life. I mean, many autistic people are completely nonverbal. So as you can imagine, here we are we're an adult now and we're nonverbal. It's pretty much going to limit some of the things that we can do.
Okay, when you say nonverbal, you mean they do not speak at all?
Don't speak at all. Okay. Or maybe a series of grunts or noises, but not in any. They can't carry a conversation, and oftentimes haven't ever spoken a word.
But can they do they have the capability to understand
Absolutely.
what you're saying?
Absolutely.
So they know what you're saying. They know
do.
what's going on.
They do. And
it's
again,
just that for whatever reason this and I don't know, is it a disease? Is it a condition? Is it a
you have to be,
what is autism?
You have to be very careful about the way that you describe something like this, because it is unlike anything else in that there is no cure, but there is an evolution. There's no stopping what's going on, but there is a way to adapt. And where we come into play is where we can bridge that gap between neurotypical society, which is you and I,
right,
people without autism, and those with autism. Because at some point, somebody's got to meet them halfway. Somebody, and that's incumbent on us as a community, as a people, to do that. And my wife is fond of saying that kindness is the answer to most of the world's problems. And I
can dig that.
I dare to say that I cannot find a world problem on the world stage or even here locally that couldn't be solved with kindness. The problem with kindness is it has to be reciprocated, and that's what we all need to learn.
Right.
So
I have questions that I don't even know how to ask.
Okay.
For example, if a person has autism, are they aware that they have this condition, or that they are different, or that there is something that is setting them apart from, and I hesitate using the term normal person, I think what was the term?
Neurotypical.
Neurotypical. So it is, I mean, you have a son that has autism.
Right.
Is he aware, and he's only what, 7?
He's 7.
So he may not be old enough to be aware that there is something different about him than other children or your wife or yourself. Is that...
That's an amazing question, actually. It's the first time I've been asked that, and I've often thought that more people should ask that. The answer is that it really has depended on the parents. For a long time, there was a certain amount of shame associated with having a child on the spectrum. Therefore...
Or anything
sadly,
that
yes.
sets you apart or makes you different.
That's absolutely true. So some people chose to not have those discussions with their child. My son knows he has autism. My son knows what autism is. He knows that he's special. And we feel, that's our own personal opinion, that is one of the most important things that you can do. Because the moment that the child realizes that this is his special thing, it becomes...
Do you think that helps him cope with whatever... And like I say, the words that I use, I'm not even sure if they're correct.
Right.
When I say coping, I mean, does it help him deal with it internally or himself, or do you know that? Or?
I don't think he's dealing with anything at his age right now. And,
right.
and the fact that he knows he has autism doesn't mean, that, like you said, that cognitively right now he could explain to you what that is.
Gotcha.
So right now that's his superpower, and that's how we explain it. That's how we feel about it.
That's cool.
My son, although he...
Hence the Heroes for Autism.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Liam can't tie his shoes.
Yeah.
But Liam can speak, in 3 languages.
Yeah. And I have met Liam, and he was here in the studio. If you had not told me initially that he had autism, maybe if I had spent more time with him, I would have known. But I didn't know. There is no outward expression of his condition that gave me any indication.
Right, which really makes it difficult on him, not so much now, but as he grows up. As a society, we have this mentality, we all have problems.
Right.
And so with a child like mine who is high functioning on the spectrum, the problem is that people look at him and he's given no slack because he doesn't look like he has autism. Whereas, obviously, if you see somebody in a wheelchair, or you see somebody that's been afflicted in a much more serious way, we're pre-programmed to have empathy towards that situation. But sadly, we have recently, in the last couple of generations, been programmed to think that everyone that has an issue is whining about something, and that the only way to be tough in this world and successful is to suck it up, which is just a ridiculous concept when you're dealing with people on the spectrum. You don't suck it up.
So as he gets older, and you say he is high functioning, and he is out in public, and he is dealing on a daily basis, and people are not aware that he is autistic, and they expect, and what was the term again?
Neurotypical.
Neurotypical. They expect certain things from him, If they ask him to do something and he does not respond in the correct way,
Right.
or I could see where that could cause all kinds of problems for that individual
Yeah.
and those individuals that come in contact with him. Law enforcement, for example, if he's driving and he gets,
Sure. No.
but
Absolutely.
or he's in the park or something, and he, what happens then? How do we cope with
Well,
that?
we're kind of the ones writing the playbook as we go right now. The bottom line is that right now most departments are receiving some sort of autism training.
Seriously, I wasn't aware of that.
It's different with all departments in every different state and
Okay.
how comprehensive it is. Right now we do peer-to-peer training. That means I have police officers training other police officers. I have firefighters training other firefighters, EMT, emergency,
awesome.
flight paramedics, all these
Oh
people.
my God! Yeah, an EMT
Yeah,
or a paramedic
absolutely.
that might have to deal with that kind of a situation
More
And-
times than the police
yeah.
actually. And
or,
then
or a fireman
Yeah.
or something where you absolutely need that person's cooperation to save their life.
yeah, how many more people are in the burning building?
Yeah.
I need that answer from
Right.
you, and I need to know how to approach you. Otherwise, I know, because there's 14 people on the other side of the lawn screaming he has autism, I know he's going to shut down. I know I'm not going to get the information I need.
Right.
And I'm putting other people's lives in jeopardy by not having this in my toolbook.
Right. Or get out of the car, get on the ground,
Right.
put your hands up.
Right.
Which
again,
with the sirens and the lights
we
and all
stand firmly in the middle of the road between the autistic community and police officers. We understand that they need compliance. We want them to go home. We need them to be there for
course.
us. And this kind of comes full circle to why it is we started this. When we realized that there was a possibility that we personally may not be around anymore for our child, we started to look at the people in the community that our son could receive help from, that would be there to support
Right.
him and take care of him and protect him. And at that point it just became an absolute no-brainer. I mean, these people that have a heart for service, they're out there every day. Thankfully, I've been a part of the law enforcement community, and that a supporter of law enforcement. I owned a company that trained law enforcement for a while. So this was just a super joyous event, and it gave my wife and I something to kind of shield that hurt.
Right.
Because every day you live with the fact that
Of
someday
course.
my child might be alone. He
Yeah.
might, and that's anybody's child. I mean,
Right.
I could get run over by a car, but just knowing that he doesn't understand. I didn't want him to think that Daddy just got tired of him.
Yeah.
And wandered away and never came back because of something he did, or I
Right.
got tired of. Those things you think about as a parent, and as a parent of someone on the spectrum, it's heartbreaking, because I think that that's it. When there's something wrong with other people, you can say, does your tummy hurt, or what's wrong? Are you having trouble breathing?
Right.
With autism, it's not that simple. My son will not complain. He could have a broken bone and he's not going to tell you, because a lot of autistic people feel pain in a different way, and
Right.
they don't express it. So that's just
Well,
one.
they don't know that they're feeling pain.
They
I mean, they know that
or
they're
they
feeling
don't
pain.
feel it the same.
They think that it's normal, or that that's part of.
It's a mystery. It's a mystery of whether, sometimes we think my son's just being stoic, which is kind of cool, and other times that, when things, look more serious, where we're very concerned. And on those occasions when you have to take your child to the emergency room and sit there, and he's on oxygen, and he's got something like we all did when we were growing up,
Yeah.
did something and has to go to the hospital. It is terrifying, because you just, not only can you not really have a conversation with him, but you don't know if he's able to communicate what
Yeah,
if
he's
in
not able
distress.
to communicate what's really going on,
Yeah, big deal.
because he has no frame of reference.
Absolutely, absolutely. So another thing we're doing is we're starting a mentor program called Heroes in Training. It doesn't take, I'm sure I'm not speaking out of school when I say, if you go on the internet or you just look around these days, that we've managed to create a generation of some fairly mean, spirited children,
No
and
shit.
and we as a society are kind of devolving in respect to that. So we decided to start Heroes in Training, which is basically us taking neurotypical kids that are interested in leadership through compassion.
Right.
Essentially, these are courses that are going to be held that are going to teach them to become shepherds for these children, and the younger the better, because we hope that they'll shepherd these children all the way through their schooling years and create long-lasting relationships that go beyond, but at the same time they retain the the way you feel when you're a hero for somebody.
Right.
The way that it makes you feel is better than, almost anything. It's an amazing thing, and everyone should try it.
My brain gets going 100 miles an hour, and I'm imagining if every school in the country just had one person that understood that,
Right.
and that there was a place for an autistic person to go, or someone that they could count on, or that knew what the hell was going on.
Right.
So that would be cool.
In Clark County, first of all, Clark County School District does an amazing job of providing assets and programs and everything for
That's
our
good
children.
to know.
I have to tell you, I mean, you cannot really complain when you're talking about our school district. I did notice that when Liam first started school, they had what was called the neurotypical program, where they had one child who was exemplary that volunteered to go in and basically complete their kindergarten year, their first grade year, alongside these children. And that's because in the autism community, a lot of their behaviors that will make them socially passable, they are parroting. They're actually mimicking proper social play skills. And because, like as you said, the playground is an interesting and heartbreaking situation for anybody. And when our child first started to go to the playground, and this is great, you can see the evolution. At first, he was terrified of other children. He would start to climb the ladder to go down the slide, and if another child approached the ladder, he would literally recoil and remove himself from the equipment. He then started to kind of catch on to what was going on, so he did what was called mirror playing. In other words, he would watch what the kids in the middle of the park were doing, and he would do it by himself on the outside. So if they were running and screaming, he was running and screaming, but there was no interaction.
Gotcha.
So then you get to an age, when you get 5 or 6 years old, suddenly now your neurotypical children are cued into the fact that this child is socially awkward. What's your name? And the answer that always comes back then was, what's your name? Well, my name's Jim. Well, my name's Jim. Well, what do you want to do? Well, what do you want to do? And after 2 or 3 of those exchanges, they would wander off and say they didn't want to play with Liam. Liam probably didn't care at all.
Right.
Happiest kid ever, but mom and dad, yeah.
It's heartbreaking.
Tough stuff. Now I can say that my child, speaks, fairly decently, considering he was almost nonverbal. And he is happy, well-adjusted. He interacts with everybody. And we discovered that he has some gifts. He's extremely intuitive. We will be walking through a grocery store, and he will, shake his hand free of mine and go up to a complete stranger and grab their hand and say, it's okay, it's going to be better. And they will instantly break down into tears. And they're like, I don't even know how he knew I was going through something, but that was so sweet and so genuine, and thank you, and tear-filled goodbyes. And Liam is a great ambassador for the human race. He really is. He's an unbelievable child who has just a heart for everyone. Who would, if his mommy's had a hard day at work, he knows right away, and he'll come sit in her lap and give her a hug and snuggles. And it's amazing to see that if you can get your child or young adult into the right programs, and if you really make it a priority to work with them and to not give up and to not hold them responsible for the things that they just simply can't change, amazing progress can be made.
How did you become aware? And you said that Liam was 3 years old when he was diagnosed.
Yeah.
What made you think there might be something wrong with my child?
Well, obviously everyone's been around babies and they know the stages. And in
Right.
this.
Now, is Liam your only child?
Yeah, Liam is
Okay.
my son, and he was an interesting case. We were in denial for a good long time. This is something I still am very guilt-ridden about, which is that for a long time my wife said, there's something wrong, and I kept saying, oh, he'll grow out of it. Everybody
Right.
develops at a different stage. So finally we realized, and in the day and age of the internet, obviously whenever you have a symptom of anything, you take it on the internet and they give you the worst example of what it is that's going on. So then you start to go, oh my goodness. So eventually we went in and had him tested.
Okay, so let me stop you there and let me ask you, So you finally admitted, or you've sensed, okay, there is something wrong.
Right.
Now, but what? Who do I take him to?
Right.
Who am I going to ask? Hey, is my child okay, or is there something wrong with my child?
Right.
How did you start that process? Who was the first person that you took your child to?
Well, we took him to his pediatrician. I mean,
Okay.
that's the normal course of action. We
Right.
said we suspect this, and then the pediatrician hooked us
Wait,
up.
wait. You said you suspected something.
Yeah, we suspected that he was autistic.
Okay, and that's because of your
Delayed-
searching on your internet.
Well, delayed verbals. He wasn't
Right, but I'm
verbalizing
saying you
anything.
researched this first.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
said, hey, this is, he
These
he
are the
should be
things he's
talking by
doing.
now, should be doing this, should be doing that,
Right.
so blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so then that's what gave you your first clue that maybe we should take him in and
Right.
and took him to your pediatrician. Okay, I'm
And the
sorry.
pediatrician then, thankfully, I gotta say, everybody in Clark County, I mean, we're all really in this together. I
Yeah.
don't feel like this is something. I'm not battling for everyone to wake up and take notice. I'm just trying to be a part.
That's really good to hear.
Yeah, yeah. So the pediatrician had all the resources, sent us to the testing agency that works in conjunction with Clark County School District.
So the physician was aware, the pediatrician was aware of autism, some of the symptoms,
Yeah.
or like I say, I don't even know whether to call them symptoms or signs or
Signs,
and that, okay, so this possibly exists. Here's the place that I can refer
Right.
you to.
And it was actually a very comprehensive battery of tests. I have to be, and it was, with him, with us.
Did you just get lucky with his pediatrician, or do you think that a lot of the pediatricians here in Clark County maybe, or even throughout the country, are that aware? Or did you just get lucky?
I don't know if we got lucky. Honestly, I don't know, because we've had the same pediatrician for so long. But I
Okay.
do have to say that working every day with the professionals throughout this community, that everyone's pretty knowledgeable, at least about the existence,
Right.
and they're very honest about the fact that, like, my pediatrician didn't say, I suspect this too. She simply had the resources to send me where we needed to
Right.
go. But again, once we got there, the battery of tests that they put your child through, both in your presence and separate, and the amount of psychologists that he spoke to in one afternoon, from one to another, was amazing. And they put him through different cognitive tests, and it was pretty obvious very early on that our son was on the spectrum.
Gotcha.
It was not like a maybe he is, maybe he's not. We got the diagnosis we expected, and then from there.
At that point, when you received that diagnosis, were you, and like I say, the words escape me sometimes, were you relieved or at least, okay, now we know what this is?
I wasn't
and we
relieved.
can deal with it.
I wasn't relieved, but what it was a combination of now we can deal with this.
That was my, I mean,
Yeah.
we know what this is now.
Now we've got a diagnosis.
Now we've got a diagnosis.
Yeah.
We know which direction to go.
Right.
Rather than saying, we don't know what the hell's the matter.
Well, I want to be really honest, because that's going to help other parents.
course.
The fact of the matter is that we went through a period of mourning, much as though you would go through at the loss of a loved one.
Right.
We went through the loss of our expectations, the loss of the life that we thought we were going to have, all
Right.
of those milestones that you look forward to when you have a child.
Right.
That was very
Little League, high school football,
exactly, the prom,
all that, yeah.
So it's very selfish, but what I learned is that that's okay, and I learned that through my wife, who's the president of the board, and she's also a licensed grief counselor. So that was very hard for me to realize that that's what was happening. And you get fearful when you're having those feelings, because you wonder about, are you going to be able to shake this?
Right.
Is this now a permanent
Right.
part of my life? Because autism is now a permanent part of my life. And the answer is no. No, the grief goes away as soon as you decide to empower yourself to be your child's protector, to be, a good steward for that child. It's either or, and it's the same way with everything in life. You either choose to fight, you either choose to stand up and do what's right and give it everything you got, or you fall off the edge.
Right.
And
Well,
there's
on one hand, and I hope you'll take this with the way I mean it, on the one hand, it's kind of a blessing for you, because look what you're doing with this.
yeah,
Look at the people that you are going to be helping
Yeah.
through this organization and through your efforts. And one of the things that we kind of skipped over it earlier, but one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about was the law enforcement,
Right.
and how they deal with autistic and or autism, and what are you doing in that area, and do you have people that on that side or in those fields that are helping you, and how is that
Well, as you know, because you've met my buddy, our director of education is Sergeant Tim Sutton.
Okay.
I can't say enough good things about Sergeant Sutton. He has essentially been teaching law enforcement about autism on his own dime, taking vacation days to do it, so actually losing money.
And where's he located?
He's in Virginia.
Okay.
He's in Virginia. And he's been teaching this for the better part of 15, 20 years, and
Wow,
just an
that's
amazing guy.
great.
And he and I ended up linking up together, and he'd been looking for an opportunity to do something like this for a long time, and obviously we're searching for that person that's going to be the country's foremost expert on
Right.
autism as it's applied to first responder training. And guess what? We get along famously, and he has used all of his resources across the country, and we have assembled the largest traveling team of peer-to-peer, and again, that's police officers teaching
Right.
police officers, and so on. The largest peer-to-peer group in the United States.
Wow. And how did he get into it? Do you know?
He got into it, and I hate to tell his stories because he's one of the best storytellers I know, but
But he's not here, so you're up.
He's not here. He had several catalysts in this, but there were some children in his community that he was very fond of that were on the spectrum. The great thing about Sergeant Sutton is that he really is a community guy. He still goes by and gives birthday presents to the kids that he's had interactions with, and just a tremendous guy. But I'm not exactly sure when or why he started it. I can tell you that in the course of a week, that Sergeant Sutton had to train 6,000 civilians on the outward signs of autism because
6,000?
6,000, and because they were doing a search and rescue, search and recovery mission for a nonverbal boy.
Oh, God.
And they found him alive, and Sergeant Sutton saved him. Sergeant Sutton and the team that he trained, and just the fact that he got the community to rally around this situation. And well, like I said, you can tell I'm pretty fond of the guy, and
Yeah.
we're in good hands when it comes to the development of new protocol and new education. He's been responsible for helping get laws passed to protect our children. Just an amazing guy.
That is truly amazing and gratifying, because we all get wrapped up in our everyday lives and forget some of the stuff that's going on and what other people are facing, and not just it's not just the individuals with autism that are affected, it's their families, it's everybody that they interact with. I mean, imagine a police officer shooting an autistic person
Yeah.
because they didn't understand what was going on, and that person could not respond to their,
Yeah.
and then going home with that
Yeah.
and having to deal with that.
It's sad that people think that you would even ponder the fact that a police officer could have a tragedy like that happen to him and not have it destroy his life as well. I mean, that's the thing. We always say right up front, our programs are not to keep police officers from effecting an arrest or detaining a suspect.
Right.
That's not what we're here to do. We want the police officers to come home at night. They deserve to have the safe family life that we all have.
Right.
So that's not what we're doing here. So to answer your question, can I imagine that? Not only can I imagine it, but sadly it's happened
Yeah.
a number of times, more times than you can count on both hands. And there's just no repairing that. Once you can't unring that bell. And so obviously all of our work is preventative. All of our work is so that when officers are in a crisis situation, when they are called in on an arrest or something, they always resort back to their training, and that's why they get drilled so hard. That's why you train so hard. That's what makes being a police officer so difficult.
And any military person or any veteran understands that
Yeah,
as well.
absolutely.
However, and I think that this is why it's important that what you're doing, if part of their training lacks dealing with a significant portion of the populace,
Right.
they're not fully trained.
Yeah, they're not fully trained.
And so if you're not trained how to deal with a situation, everybody's going to deal with it differently.
Absolutely.
And I know if I was a police officer, I could never be a police officer because if I had to pull a car over, I'd walk up there with my gun drawn,
Right.
because I want to go home at night.
Exactly.
And sure, there's in any profession or whatever, there's some wackos out there, and I'm sure there's some wackos on the police force, but I think all in all, for the most part, they all are doing a job. They're doing it because they think they want to have a safe community.
Right.
They believe that they're contributing, and they want to go home to their families.
No, that's absolutely right. And remember, it's not just programs like ours that help. You mentioned earlier, do most of these kids know they have autism?
Right.
Well, I can just speak for my child, Liam. Every time we have an opportunity to introduce him to law enforcement, he says, "Hi, my name's Liam Bray. I have autism."
Wow.
Because you immediately can start a dialogue, on the street, at a 7. Now, I will grant you this. He does now realize that the police officers are going to give him a free Slurpee each and every time he does this. Okay, so he's got it wired. He gets
Dude,
it.
hey.
He gets it.
Officer, come here.
But I got to tell you again, as far as there might be some crazies on the police force, we have, I can't say enough nice things about Nevada law enforcement. They always take the time to, kneel down and speak to my child face to face. Kindness and gentleness, and even, everybody gets a ticket now and then. I've been pulled over. I honestly, we've got a good thing going here in Nevada, and that's, I think why we're so lucky to be starting this in this geographic area. It's a melting pot. We're able to touch lots of different cultures.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's just no end to the amount of work.
You mentioned something that I didn't even think about. If you have an autistic child, regardless of their age, and you get pulled over for a traffic stop, how that can affect them because they don't know what the hell's going on, and so yeah, there's just so many things that we don't think about.
Right.
That
Well, you don't think about the fact that autism sometimes has a dual diagnosis. Most people with autism don't just have autism. They could have anxiety disorder. They could have OCD.
Really?
My
I wasn't
son
aware
has
of that.
OCD. So my son lines up nothing can be touching, and he has rituals. If you don't look, you can't catch him because it's not like on the movies where they're trying to make fun of it.
Right.
Like when we unbuckle him from his car seat, he has to look inside where the buckle went each time. You have to keep an eye on those things because those behaviors will grow, and then,
Right.
and you have to make sure you curb those behaviors. Right. But it's
Well, as a parent of an autistic child, what resources are there for you to help you cope with or teach you about his condition or his situation?
Right. Well, there are many too many to mention resource groups here in Nevada. So I would just suggest popping online. But they do have, there's a neat group out there called RAD, Making a Real Autism Difference. And RAD is actually a nonprofit started by a 16-year-old girl whose little brother has a severe autism diagnosis. And they focus around child care, qualified child care for the autistic community, so the parents can either go to a course that helps them or even just have a date night or something like that. So a lot of people sadly in the autism community, these companies, these nonprofits, I don't know if they're afraid that we're going to run out of autistic people to help. They honestly, there's not a lot of networking. Everybody's very closed-minded, and we definitely are looking to reach out and combine our resources with everybody. We're all in this together. The community is amazing.
And you bring up a good point because there are so many different. In other words, if you have a group and you don't want to share anything with another group of people that deal with autism, maybe they have something that could be of value to you, or because you can't know everything.
Right.
And I don't know.
No, that's absolutely true, and that was stunning to me. You go in so arrogant, and you think, well, I have a kid with autism, so I know everything. And then what you realize is you may know everything about your child's autism, but you don't know anything about everyone else's autism. So the learning curve is huge, and I will honestly say we are voracious readers and researchers, but we've all been, there's not a day or a night that goes by that we aren't able to put something else, in that tool bag.
Right.
So that we can more understand, what's going on with cases that don't have anything to do with the kind of autism that my son has or someone else's son.
What is the hardest thing for you personally about having an autistic child?
Well, again, the hardest thing is, those are the most selfish things. They're your selfish wants and needs. I would love to be able to throw a baseball with my son. I'd love to be able to, tell inside jokes. He's getting to that age where he's got that little boy humor, and I guess just the the neurotypical side of a normal relationship, just being able to share thoughts and feelings, and not that we can't, we just do it in a different way. And
Right.
and well, although he may never go out for a long bomb pass on the football field, there are things that he has shown me in his world that are just as amazing, if not more amazing, and those things I always look forward to doing with him, whether it's coloring or playing his drum set, or singing. He likes to sing while I play guitar.
That's cool.
Your kid is a superhero, and you need to just figure out what his tribe is. This is my kid's tribe, and this is what my kid's good at.
Yeah.
Where I'm going to be making an announcement here that I've kind of already, because you and I are buddies, I've kind of already let you in on. But
Hey, thank you for that.
yeah, I know.
That we're buddies.
We're buddies.
That
yeah,
means a lot to me.
absolutely. I trust you, and I want to say this on your show. We've started this program where we're actually now looking for heroes that have autism. One of the things I've noticed over the last year as we're running this is that there are a lot of neurotypicals doing a lot of talking about a lot of autism, and there's not that voice out there in the actually #autistic voice.
Right.
And so we started doing searching for these heroes, because they're out there and there's a lot of them. And
contact us here.
Yeah.
If you have any interest whatsoever,
For
let us
sure.
know. You know how to contact the station. Please do. We will put you in touch with Hal.
Yep, absolutely.
And another question before we get too far off,
Sure.
because I could spend days on this.
Right.
What is the and this is a hard question to ask, and I know it's going to be a hard question for you to answer, because I don't want this to sound weird. What's the best thing about having an autistic child?
The best
For
thing,
you,
the best
personally.
thing. Well, that's actually the easiest question to answer in the world. He instantly changed me. Once he let me into his world and I stopped resisting, I became a more humble, kinder, and gentler version of my previous self. He's made me look at.
Because I picture you at one point in your life being pretty much of a hard ass.
At one point in my life, I made
a badass.
I made a living being a
jerk.
I was a very aggressive individual, and
Right.
I still am passionate, but I've crossed that bridge between aggression and passion.
And I
he's helped
see
me do
how
that.
I see how you have redirected
Right.
that, and the passion that both you and your wife have impressed me immediately the first time I met you guys and I saw what you were doing, and it was like, wow, this is
Right.
and the fact that you wanted to be part of what we're doing here has meant a lot to me.
Oh, thanks.
I think that you guys are on the cusp of doing some really, really great things, and you have opened my eyes to a lot of things and made me want to do more and
Nice.
figure out, okay, so maybe not in this area, or maybe in this area,
Right.
or something else, but how important that is, that we all, we're all in this together.
We are.
And,
we are.
and the best way to make this better for all of us is to help each other.
Absolutely.
And
that
okay.
type of behavior is transformative. You wouldn't
It
believe
is.
you wouldn't believe how much brighter your light will burn when you can make that transformation. And it's just, I often say that my son is my tour guide, because it's not just autism. It's now I look at everybody. If somebody, perfect example. I went to get a haircut the other day, and I walked in and I went to my girl to get a haircut. She says, "I got to go take my lunch. I can't do it right now," and she left. And at first I thought, oh, what's going on here? I'm the customer. I'm a really
Right,
good
right,
tipper,
right.
and she could have cut my hair. I went home and I thought about it. Normally I would have been mad, but and I thought maybe she had to take medication. Maybe somebody else didn't come into work today and she was filling their spot. The point is that I've just become a completely different person. And what's really, really been awesome is that, as you said, my previous life, so on Facebook, social media, just on my own personal page, there's 5,000 police officers, firefighters,
Right.
veterans following me that have followed me through all my career changes. And all of the messages that I've got from them saying, wow, what a difference in you, what a difference, this is fantastic and amazing. That's been fun. That's been fun to have people reach out to me and say, I can see the difference in you. This is what you were meant to be doing. I've been successful in most all of my ventures, but nothing's been as rewarding as this one. I've got a smile all the time.
So, and it's amazing. I mean, I just, that whatever we can do here to help
Yeah.
We certainly will. You've opened my eyes, and hopefully a lot of our viewers too, into autism. I want to make sure that, is there anything that you want to make sure that the people out there who are watching this know that we haven't talked about? And whatever you want to talk about, as long as you want to talk about it,
Okay.
it's yours. There's the
All right.
camera. You tell them whatever you want to tell them.
Well, we've got some pretty exciting stuff coming up. I'm going to do 2 little teasers right now. As I was saying to John, we've been looking for these amazing people that have, hashtag actually autism. So actually autistic people that are doing amazing things in the community. And on Friday, we're going to be announcing our very first hero, hashtag actually autistic. And I will tell you that he is a race car driver. I don't want to spill all the beans right now, but it is amazing, and he is an incredible racer and an incredible asset to his community, and I am super excited to make that announcement. We will be sponsoring his race car, and we will be immediately starting a campaign to get him racing in the USA. Right now he's on a Canadian circuit and poised to make some pretty good moves up the rankings in the next couple weeks. So we're super excited for that. And the second announcement, which we will be rolling out not this Friday, but next Friday, is that we have been named the exclusive facilitator for the Autism Reality Experience. And that's pretty much just like it sounds. It's a game changer. This is a semi-trailer that's been fitted. Police officers or whoever we're training can go inside. It's fully immersive and interactive. Basically, we're putting them on a sensory overload, auditory, visual, sensory overload, giving them some commands to complete some fairly simple tasks, watching them fail miserably at those tasks, and then by the end of the experience, they really have an idea. I can honestly say that there have been police officers moved to tears. And I think this is going to be a great program for the Clark County School District. We're planning on bringing it down to Virginia to do some training down there, and hopefully it's going to become a regular part of each and every one of our trainings. So a game changer coming to a town near you.
And so this is mobile. This is going to be going around the country.
It's mobile. Yeah, it's mobile going around the country. We're going to be able to offer it to the general public. We're going to be able to offer it to private facilities, and obviously we're going to be able to offer it to the law enforcement community. I would love to get a chance to put it, for a day or two in the parking lot of each of our county schools.
Yeah.
Just because they've already done such a great job in helping our children, providing the day-to-day. I mean, we have full-day school and nobody pays for it. The state takes care of it. We've got, just an amazing amount of resources. We'd like to piggyback on what they're already doing and give their educators that are more and more going to, because the autism population is set to eclipse the baby boomer generation in the next 7 years.
Wow.
That's, and clearly baby boomers are nearing the ends of their lives and passing on. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks
but,
a lot.
yeah, sorry about that. But that's just kind of an example that shows you how quickly the demographic is going to change and how we have to really devote a lot of resources to it.
And you are you're a nonprofit organization, 501c?
We're a nonprofit. We're still awaiting our 501c3 tax exempt
Okay.
status, but we're using a statutory agent. So essentially, yeah, we are.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
So
I'm sorry, not a statutory agent, a fiscal agent.
Gotcha. Anything else? You got?
No, that's it.
All right,
Yeah.
Hal. Thank you again.
I appreciate it.
No, we appreciate it. That's what we're here for, is to kind of do these kinds of things. And it's always it's the hardest thing about this show. For me, was not doing what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
The sadness and the joy that I feel for what you're doing is amazing.
That's very touching. I sure appreciate you. Thank you so much.
All right, enough of that. Hal, thank you again.
Yes, sir.
Thank you all
having me.
for watching this, and please contact Heroes for Autism. There's always a way to help. There's always something you can do. It's not always about money. Sometimes it's about time. Sometimes it's just about being aware. And in your interactions with your fellow man and everybody else that's out there, just if you're going to do it with Stiles. Thank you.